All right, time to jump in the Wayback Machine because we're headed to Lincoln West High School, Cleveland, 1977. Got our trusty Yearbook here. Oh yeah, this one's seen a few pep rallies, maybe a lunch tray mishap or two. Adds to the character, right?
Totally. Yearbooks, they're like historical snapshots, and this one, oh man, it's ready to tell some tales. Forget just the pictures. This is a peek into these 77 Wolverines' lives.
So true. And flipping through, first thing that grabbed me, the clubs. Chess Club, Red Cross, there's even, get this, a ski club. Were saddle shoes the, official footwear on the slopes back then?
Ski Club, now that's a head scratcher. This is Cleveland, right? Not exactly Aspen. Makes you wonder, was skiing a big thing back in the day? Like maybe everyone wanted a taste of that jet set life, even if it was just pretend.
You might be onto something. And speaking of things that take you back, the senior sock hop spread.
Whoa!
Can't you just imagine it? Poodle skirts, maybe a brave soul trying the hustle.
Oh, the fashion choices in here. It's a gold mine. You got those classic poodle skirts, yeah. But also some bolder choices. Leisure suits. Anyone. It's a total blast from the past.
You said it. And the soundtrack to this blast of the past. The Yearbook mentions Barry Manilow, Barbra Streisand, but also Led Zeppelin. Talk about range.
It's wild, right? It's like pop royalty hanging out with rock legends. It really makes you think about what kind of music these kids were into. Were they all about one style or just soaking it all in? Did any of these bands become like lifelong favorites? Makes you wonder.
Definitely something to think about. Okay, switching gears here, I got to ask about this Freedom Writer. Not your average high school newspaper, huh? The Yearbook claims it was the best in the entire Cleveland area. That's a pretty big deal.
Huge GE deal. It tells you they took journalism seriously at Lincoln West. You don't get that kind of reputation without some seriously talented student reporters. And of course, a dedicated teacher or two guiding them.
Makes you think about what they covered in the Freedom Writer. Local stuff. Big national news. Maybe even some, edgy stuff. Challenging the powers that be. We got to dig into that later. But for now, let's talk about the Wolverines. The athletes.
Yeah.
Judging by this Yearbook, they were a force to be reckoned with.
Oh, they were. The whole sports section is packed with highlights. Like, check it out. The golf team snags its first ever victory, and the girls' basketball team, city champions, baby. Talk about school pride. You can practically hear the cheers leaping off these pages.
Right. But Lincoln West wasn't just about, sports stars. This Yearbook's got some serious academic bragging rights, too. Check this out. Their National Honor Society induction. Guest speaker was Dennis Kucinich. He was the clerk of courts back then.
Whoa, no way. Having Kuchenik there, that's huge GE for a high school event. Shows they were plugged into the whole civic engagement thing. Makes you wonder if seeing him in action sparked any political ambitions in those students.
Maybe we'll find a future president lurking in these pages. And get this, they had these programs, Earn and Learn, they called them COE and DE. What was that all about?
So from what I gathered, COE and DE, they were all about giving students a taste of the working world. Imagine graduating high school, but you already got real job experience. Shows how much Lincoln West cared about prepping these kids for life after the diploma.
It's clear these Wolverines weren't all work and no play, though. Flipping through this Yearbook, you really get a feel for how much was happening on the art scene at Lincoln West.
Oh, for sure. Take the music department, for example. They were BUSY. Christmas concerts, spring concerts, even marching in the citywide St. Patrick's Day parade. Talk about dedication.
I bet those were something else. And the plays, soon to be a major motion picture, George Washington Slept Here. Just the titles have me intrigued. I think there were any future Spielbergs or Streeps hiding in those casts.
Wouldn't be surprised. It's fun to imagine the work behind those productions, rehearsals, costumes, maybe a little stage fright. And then, boom, the lights hit, and they bring those characters to life. Magic.
And we can't forget the culinary masters behind the scenes, the home economics classes.
Yeah.
Looks like they were whipping up some deliciousness for all those school events.
Absolutely. They were the real MVPs of those bake sales.
Yeah.
And check this out. They even had a whole unit on, get this, wedding preparation. Talk about essential life skills.
Lincoln West really wanted their students to dive into everything, huh? Academics, clubs, planning for life after graduation. Speaking of which, what's the deal with these pipettes?
The pipettes. Oh, they were all about school spirit. Think cheerleaders of enthusiasm, but maybe with a broader scope. They ushered events, organized pep rallies, that kind of thing. Just injecting a little extra energy into Lincoln West.
Funny how some things never change, right? Every high school needs those groups that bring everyone together. But aside from all the clubs and stuff, this yearbook's full of those little relatable high school moments, like this one student reminiscing about how their senior spotlight got snowed out. Can you imagine the disappointment?
Oh, I can only imagine. All that anticipation, and then bam, Mother Nature throws a curveball. Sounds like they salvaged the fun, though. Pizza, pop, 50s music. Not a bad consolation prize.
That's the spirit. Speaking of spirit, we got to talk about this senior prom. The theme was, "We may never pass this way again." Pretty classic prom theme, right? A
Sure.
little dramatic, but also kind of perfect for that night when everyone's trying to live in the moment.
Totally. It's such a transitional time. Looking ahead to the future, but also clinging to those high school memories. Bittersweet, really. Everyone gets that feeling no matter what decade they graduated in.
For sure. And speaking of looking ahead, the yearbook ends with the graduation ceremony of the class of '77 officially moving on. But before we dive into their individual stories, any initial thoughts about what this yearbook tells us about their hopes and dreams? What were these soon-to-be grads striving for?
One thing that jumps out is their incredible work ethic. So many already had jobs lined up, were enrolled in college, or were planning to enlist. It's a good reminder that even though times change, that drive to find your place in the world, it's universal.
I love that. And now, knowing that, I'm even more excited to hear about these graduates. Let's dive into these senior portraits and see what we find, shall we?
Lead the way. I'm ready for more.
Okay, first up, we've got Tony Black, 3-year band member with his sights set on becoming a mechanic. Then there's Brigitte Blackburn. Seems like the theater bug bit her hard. Multiple school plays, and she couldn't wait for college life to start.
And we can't forget Luis Castro, juggling JV baseball with his duties as a library aide, all while gearing up for Cuyahoga Community College. These graduates were juggling a lot.
Talk about well-rounded. And speaking of which, looks like Josie Colin was quite the familiar face around Lincoln West. Active in a bunch of clubs, including those Pipettes, even served as treasurer in 11th grade.
And Kelly Conway, National Honor Society member, also found time for basketball and working as a library aide. It's really impressive how many of these students were involved in multiple things at once.
For real. Organization must have been their superpower. Okay, up next, a familiar name from our little chat about student government, Liz Cortez.
Oh yeah, Luz. Not only was she in the band and the pride chairman of the Student Congress, she was even in Who's Who among American high school students. How cool is that?
Talk about leaving your mark. And she still found time for girls basketball in 10th grade. Seems like Luz was determined to do it all at Lincoln West, and judging by this yearbook, she did.
She sure did. And with dreams of becoming a leading lady someday, something tells me this wasn't the last we'll hear of Liz Cortez.
I have a feeling you're right about that. Okay, next we have Eileen Cummings. Looks like college was the plan, but she was keeping her options open, even mentioning maybe joining the Peace Corps.
Now there's a global citizen in the making. It's inspiring to see that alongside the more, traditional paths, some students were already thinking about making a difference on a bigger scale.
Totally. And speaking of different paths, Joyce Cerny seemed to have a very practical side, aiming for a career in accounting, but also staying connected through basketball and the National Honor Society. A good balance.
The best of both worlds. Now let's talk about Dave DeLuca. Athlete, musician, actor, this guy did it all.
Talk about well-rounded, right? Chess club, bowling team, swimming team, even the drama club. Lincoln West really did offer something for everyone.
They did, and they clearly encouraged their students to try new things. Now, speaking of trying new things, John Ferreri, while super involved with the National Honor Society and the Student Congress, also had his heart set on a career in music. Even had plans to attend Cleveland State University.
It's awesome to see how these yearbook entries often give you a peek at those early passions. Sometimes they turn into lifelong pursuits. Next up, Ed Gabriel. He seems like he had a clear vision, becoming a physical therapist. He was also on the cross-country and track teams. Maybe those long runs sparked his interest in physical therapy.
Maybe. You never know what experiences will end up shaping your path. Sometimes the most unexpected things connect.
So true. Okay, I'm drawn to this next entry. Carol, Georgia.
Oh, Carol. Homecoming queen, volleyball, basketball, track, National Honor Society. And the list goes on. This girl was unstoppable.
Seriously, she was also part of the Pipettes, A&E, the Student Congress. Talk about embodying that Lincoln West spirit.
She really did. She's like the poster child for getting involved. It's super inspiring to see that dedication to both academics, A&D, extracurriculars.
Absolutely. Now, here's a student who seemed to have a good head on his shoulders. Robert Garuccio, or Roby as he was known. planning to work at J&L Steel after graduation, but also active in baseball, even served as parliamentarian for the DE program. Talk about well-rounded.
A perfect example of someone who understood the value of hard work, both in school and in preparing for his future. Robert seems like he was a real asset to Lincoln West.
Totally agreed. Next up, Maria Gonzalez, a talented musician and active member of the school orchestra. She even snagged all-city orchestra honors. And get this, she wanted to be an elementary school teacher.
Oh, that's so sweet. There's something special about young people who are passionate about, shaping young minds. It says a lot about her character.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, next up is a student who I have a feeling blazed her own trail. Barbara Haynes.
Ah, yes. Barbara, with her sights set on becoming, wait for it, a professional motorcycle racer. Not exactly your average career goal, especially back then. This girl was clearly fearless. She was all about defying expectations and going for her dreams.
Love it. Okay, let's meet Robin Mitchell, or Sunshine as she was known. Robin had plans to get married and work in a hospital, all while rocking that merit and honor roll status.
Sunshine, I love that nickname. It's like you can practically feel the warmth and positivity radiating from this yearbook entry.
Right. These little details really make these students come to life. Okay, moving on to Lee Madelon. Looks like he, like a few others we've seen, was drawn to music, A&D journalism. He was in the choir, school plays. A&D contributed to both the Phoenix staff and the Freedom Writer staff.
So many aspiring journalists in this yearbook. It's really cool. Makes you wonder if the success of the Freedom Writer, sparked that interest in storytelling and reporting for some of these students.
Now, wouldn't that be something? Imagine these halls were full of future media moguls. Okay, we can't forget Deborah Moore.
Absolutely not. Talk about impressive get. Deborah decided to join the U.S. Marine Corps after graduation. That takes serious guts and dedication. Talk about serving your country.
And she was a member of both the JV and varsity football teams. She was clearly a force to be reckoned with on A&D off the field.
Absolutely. Now let's meet Donna Nolan. Pipettes, Wolverina Team, Student Congress, Radio Workshop, Annie B. Drama Club Productions. This girl was everywhere.
Donna was clearly one of those people who embraced every opportunity, and I bet she inspired others to do the same.
For sure. Okay, next up is Jaime Perez, or Simi, as he was called. College was the plan for Jaime. And like many of his classmates, he was also big into extracurriculars, DE program, JV football, and even snagged a role in George Washington's Slept Here. That play seems to have been a big hit.
Right. It was like the Hamilton of Lincoln West. Everyone was in it.
I know, right? Must have been quite the production. Now let's talk about Rosaline Perez, who is planning to dive straight into the workforce after graduation. And we can't forget Shirley Perry, who, like a few others we've seen, was drawn to the nursing profession. She was also a dedicated member of the National Honor Society. Always a good sign.
And she still found time to be a library aide.
Mm.
This graduating class was full of bookworms, that's for sure. Okay, this next entry is pretty cool. Marianne Pietricci, or Tish, as she was known, was the only white girl on the tennis team. Talk about breaking barriers.
Right. Love to see it. It takes guts to pursue your passion, even when you're the only one who looks like you in the room. Marianne was clearly a trailblazer.
You said it. Okay, here's a student who, it seems, had a plan. Brenda Richardson, or Bubble Butt as she was affectionately known, was planning to work for a bit, then head off to college. She was also a member of the Red Cross Club, the Student Congress. AD served on the Senior Class Arrangement Committee.
Brenda sounds like a natural leader, someone who always steps up to the plate.
For sure.
Amy Robinson. Seems like the music bug bit her hard. She was planning to major in music in college, and she was a key player in both the school band and orchestra. She even made it into the all-city choir.
So cool. Makes you wonder if there was a particularly inspiring music teacher at Lincoln West, or maybe a cool local music scene that influenced these kids.
Maybe. It's amazing how much our environment can shape our interests. And last but not least, we have Darlene Williams, college-bound with dreams of becoming a stenographer. And on top of all that, she was an active member of the bowling team.
What a way to wrap up this section. It's clear that the class of '77 was full of bright, talented, and ambitious individuals. I can't wait to see what they accomplished after they tossed those graduation caps in the air. All right, diving back into these senior portraits, we left off. And next up, we've got, Adrian Maldonado, a wrestler. Seems like he had that fighting spirit. The yearbook even mentions him winning a particularly tough match. And speaking of showing off skills, Mark Manning represented Lincoln West on the wrestling mat.
Wrestling, basketball, you name it. Seems like these Wolverines were serious about their sports.
Oh, for sure. And they weren't just about athletics either. Check this out. Don Matejka, science whiz Andy theater kid, won an award at the science fair. Andy, he was in soon to be a major motion picture. This guy contained multitudes.
Right. Who says you have to choose just one thing? Sometimes the most interesting people are the ones who embrace all their passions.
So true. Okay, next up, we've got Lauren Matejka. Seems like she was drawn to the helping professions, pipettes, and the Health Careers Club. And Teresa Massey, part of those awesome servettes.
Those service-oriented groups are the heart of a school, wouldn't you say? Really brings people together.
For sure. Okay, let's see. Valerie McKeon, talk about leadership. Treasurer of the pipettes, A.N.D. Bizet. And speaking of skills on display, Rocky Melendez was bringing the heat on the JV basketball team.
Basketball, bowling, you name it, Lincoln West had it going on.
We said it. Okay, next up, Jose Mendez, varsity baseball star. And speaking of athletic achievements, Ida Mendez, 8th out of 38 girls on the bowling team. That's incredible.
Talk about knocking down those pins and those expectations, too. It's really inspiring to see these students excelling in so many different areas.
Absolutely. Okay, next up, Scott Nowacki, tough as nails on the wrestling team. And speaking of tough, Orlando Pace, basketball star. Seems like he was the LeBron James of Lincoln West, even voted best overall player.
They must have had some legendary games back in the day. Makes you want to hop in a time machine and grab a front row seat.
Right. Okay, let's see. Hamid Perez, active in Student Congress A&D, caught the acting bug with George Washington Slept Here. And Rosalinda Perez, she was ready to dive straight into the workforce after graduation. Practical.
Smart. Sometimes getting that real-world experience is the best education.
So true. Okay, Shirley Perry, another aspiring nurse, and a member of the National Honor Society. This graduating class was full of brainy folks. And
Okay, let's see. Who do we have next? Beans Berhala, proudly showing off his cross-country trophy. And Glenda Prentice, a true star, homecoming court and the stage.
talent on talent. It's awesome to see these students embracing all those high school experiences. And speaking of embracing it all, Mary Lou Samples, dedicated Bizet, always there to lend a helping hand. And Donna Ramos, talk about school spirit. Band, Pipettes, 12th grade representative for Student Congress.
Wow, she really did it all. And her enthusiasm is contagious.
Absolutely. And speaking of contagious enthusiasm, Jenna Rice was lending her voice to the Lincoln West Choir. Even performed solos at Concerts Brave. And speaking of Brave, Brenda Richardson, Bubble Butt, she was involved in everything. Red Cross, Student Congress, even helped plan the senior class festivities.
Sounds like Brenda was one of those people who made things happen. A true leader.
Leon Sender, co-captain of the wrestling team, leading the charge. And Dave Sherwood, seems like the theater bug bit him too. He was in soon to be a major motion picture. And speaking of moving pictures.
Oh, are we at the end of the yearbook already? Time flies when you're having fun.
I know, right? This yearbook has been such a blast from the past. It's incredible how much these little snapshots, these glimpses into the lives of these 77 Wolverines can make you feel like you were right there with them, wouldn't you say?
100%. It just goes to show you, even though the music changes, the fashion changes, that high school experience, it's pretty universal. The friendships, the heartbreaks, the dreams for the future, it's all there in these pages.
You know, it makes you wonder what future historians will say about our yearbook someday. What stories will they tell? What will they say about us? Well, on that note, we're going to have to wrap up this trip down memory lane. Huge thanks to our expert for joining us and for sharing their insights into Lincoln West High School, class of 1977. Until next time, keep those yearbooks close and those memories closer.
Thanks for having me. This was a real treat.